Three, two, one. January 1st, Saturday, 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Founders Log. I'm your host, Calvin Wineland, with the past, the present, and the future of American Butchers JERKi. Wow. Kicking off the new year strong, coming at you, brand new Founders Log. What a year this has definitely been, between COVID taking over the world and American Butchers JERKi continuing to steamroll donations across the world. It's been a relatively eventful year, to say the least. It's hard to believe that we're starting American Butchers JERKi just when the world was shutting down, and I was looking for something to continue to entertain me and provide a challenge during a very dull point in people's lives. COVID definitely made isolation. There was a lack of community out there. All these factors played a tremendous role in building what we have today, American Butchers JERKi. So as we step over to 2022, we look at the total contributions that our community has made towards the men and women currently serving overseas. The impact this community, all of you, have provided, all by a little taste of home. And so far for 2021, we find that to be quite an accomplishment. I'm going to dive into the past and talk about the future and talk about the present, because it has definitely been a year, to say the least. All of these Founders Logs start with an opportunity to look back into the past week, look at the past month, maybe a year, and take a second and reflect. Reflect on the good things that have happened, and sometimes a chance to look at the bad. It's safe to say that this has been a journey, to say the least. I chuckle when I'm talking about this because I've promised to keep these Founders Logs to a weekly basis, and this is definitely something that I can't seem to keep true. I think it has something to do with not always being able to progress forward in the business. And I mean that by some weeks the grind train is moving and we go above and beyond. I come up with new ideas, working on new outputs, new opportunities, and I think these great ideas are going to go well. And I hit on them, and we continue to push on them, and we go a few weeks, and then, honestly, that result, it doesn't seem to come out with the outcome that we hope, and it starts to fizzle out. And this grind train almost comes to a complete stop. And then these logs come in all shapes and sizes. I've promised to do this on a weekly basis, and sometimes, honestly, I can't even seem to do that. These logs seem to come from a verbal, in which case a podcast like you're listening to, and unbeknownst to some, I've been utilizing before typing the podcast, typing up the Founders Log and giving it a reader's view so that you can read it. But in this case, I'm giving you guys the opportunity to both listen and read. There is a written version over all of this that I have provided. If you're not listening on our website, if you're listening on any of our streaming platforms, this is all being able to be read as well from our website. Some of it is exactly typed the same, but the podcast essentially gives you guys a little extra bonus to some of the thoughts behind the wording. And what this is going to just allow me to do is kind of mend in two different ideas together and allow myself to kind of hit multiple different avenues. And one of the things that I like about typing this out is it seems to help get the thoughts out on paper instead of me kind of sitting here wondering what I'm going to say next, if that makes sense. Now, currently, the present, it all is about manifesting your destiny. Manifesting your destiny. Now, I'm not talking about some third dimension voodoo type stuff here. I'm talking about seeing the things you want in life and seizing the opportunity to take them. I'm going to give you an example. American Butchers last week was still banking on Google Ads and other marketing techniques to help share awareness, to gain some impact for what we as an organization are doing, because if I'm being honest, and not to toot our own horn, we're doing some pretty awesome things here at American Butchers JERKi. Not only by supporting American agriculture with purchasing locally sourced beef from FFA and 4-H animals, but we are also, and the big goal here, the end goal, supporting our armed forces overseas. I can't say that for somebody like Jack Link's or another grocery store brand that they're doing this exact same thing, because honestly, in that aspect, we're pretty unique. Now, to make a long story short, I went ahead and reached out to a few news outlets ourselves. I kept it local, reaching out to a TV station and a late night news show. I'm talking about like the ones that your grandparents are watching at like 10 p.m. each night, finding out what's happening in Nebraska. So I went out and I decided to reach out to four different outlets, and I wanted to build up each time. Started with something local, just around my local area of where our business was in Nebraska. And then I decided to get a little bit bigger, not too big, going for like a region size. So I found one of the largest towns around our area, and I reached out to their news outlet. And then I decided, okay, I want to go even a little bit bigger. So I found the state news network, and I reached out to them, and soon found myself shooting an email to Fox News. Why Fox? Honestly, I don't know. CNN didn't really have a good news story point of contact, and Fox definitely did. So with all that information for a good news story, there had been so much negativity going around the world that I figured a story like American Butchers JERKi would resonate well with the people and their news, essentially who they're trying to reach out to. So on each of these websites, I went through and I was searching for a contact us or a point of contact of some way to share a good news story, and I found a few of them with a generic email of news@da-da-da-da-da.com. So figured this couldn't hurt and was a great place to start. I opened with a little story about what we're doing, who we're supporting, and how many bags we've been sending overseas. And finally, I added a little bow on top, and I made sure to include a few pictures of what we've been essentially giving out overseas, and I wanted to demonstrate the impact that these soldiers are receiving, and I decided to include a few pictures of the men and women serving overseas with our Taste of Homes. Well, unbeknownst to me, for about 3 days until we gained 2 new followers. After searching through those followers and seeing, okay, who's following us? Well, it just happened to be that these 2 new followers were people in the newsroom from 2 of the news outlets that I reached out to. A story or something might not ever happen, but whoever you are, if you're reading this or listening to this podcast and you gave us a follow, welcome to American Butchers JERKi, and thanks for the follow. I hope you stick around, and I appreciate your support. Now, finally, the future for American Butchers JERKi. Well, it's stories like this that make American Butchers JERKi's foundational roots worth something. Reading countless other stories and listening to podcasts from other founders, with each highlighting the most enjoyment they experienced in their business, was the beginning, when the grind was real, and the goal of finding out who you are as a business and where you could kind of fit yourself in against other businesses was the biggest joy they had found so far. They didn't quite have a structure built, and they were kind of throwing stuff at the wall hoping it was sticking, and this new experience, this new avenue of approach seemed to be the biggest enjoyment that these new businesses and old businesses had experienced. The future is a crazy thing, and often we can't predict what's about to happen. However, this goes hand in hand with the whole manifest your own destiny stuff from earlier that we were talking about. If we work hard, set goals, and take steps in the right direction, you maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, or maybe not in a month, but one day we'll look back and realize that those baby steps that we've been taking eventually turn out to be 100 miles. For us, that 100-mile, million-mile goal is to reach 1,000 donated bags overseas. And as we approach our 2nd anniversary of American Butchers JERKi here in May, we take a look at we've already accomplished thus so far. Almost 675 bags donated. That is crazy. And that 1,000 bag goal is getting a little bit closer and closer each time. So, as we wrap up 2021, and today we kick off officially 2022, we want to say thank you all for the memories, and we appreciate you taking the time to follow along with us, listen to these podcasts, read our story, and just get ready for 2022. Hope that you all have a great new year, and I'm excited for what's about to come. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you later.